America, America. Oh, I started out in a different key there. America.
I'm just speechless,
I'm
honestly.
dying. Anyways,
It's killing me. Okay.
today we're talking about America.
There's a
Okay,
good-
so what's your chisme?
My chisme is this. It's kind of chisme, kind of like a public service announcement. So this girl, okay, first of all, I'm like, damn, should I tell my first story? No, I have to tell her story because bitch, she done picked me up with this whole situation. So this is a PSA to all women out there. You need to stop being so nice to men. Like
Yes.
out of all people, out of all populations, baby, don't do that. Don't do that. Okay. So this girl's so fucking damn nice. She matches with this guy on a dating app, right?
Mhm.
He's a short young man. She's about 5'4". This man said he was 5'4" on the profile. She met him in person.
He's shorter
This
than
man
that.
like 4'9". Okay. So she's like, I can see the full top of his head standing up.
4'9". That's
4'9".
I don't
So
wanna say anything problematic, but is that legally considered, like, a little person, like, at that point? Like,
I would think so. But I don't know. I've never seen
I
the guy.
don't know.
But then she also showed us a picture of the man. He does not he's also not visually appealing,
Okay.
in any way, shape, or form.
Great. So, it's gotta be all personality.
She goes out with him, he's nice or whatever. She's like, "He's really nice, he's a really nice guy, he has a good job, da 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 da." So that's kind of why I just kind of kept them going on dates with him or whatever.
Okay.
Then he dumps her.
Oh my god, of course. I was like, that like, it at that point with those attributes, you have to be fully relying on personality, like, you have to be the best person ever not the best person ever, but just, like, you have to be a certain caliber of man to where it's like, your personality, like, you get it.
It makes up for the
But
fact that
I knew from the start of the story, I was like, it's the personality's gonna be trash too.
of course. That's why I'm like, don't ever try to settle for somebody and think, "Oh, well, they're nice." Babe, you better be happy with your choice in all ways. Okay?
Yeah.
Some things you can negotiate on, but don't negotiate on everything, and then next thing you know, you just got slapped in the face by somebody who's 4'9" and not attractive. Nobody's gonna be happy about that, okay?
No.
So, alright, he dumps her. This man comes, calls her back, probably like a week, 2 weeks later. The reason why he told her that they broke up, was because he had another relationship going on. Like, he's like, "I got a better
Like,
relationship at home."
what? Yeah, this is a testament to how women are too nice because how the fuck are 2 women dealing with this guy at the same time? That's
Exactly. Okay,
insane.
no, this is not the end of the story, okay? This is just the beginning. He, in a drunken state, has a relations with this man.
Oh, girl. What?
Alright, so then she realizes, she's like, there's this one person that she actually really liked, and he was like an older guy, and he had everything going for himself. Like, he has a good career, he owns like properties, he owns like a couple cars, like he's really nice to her. She's like, the sexual chemistry was great. He would cook well, he would take her out, like everything was going great until they had a conversation and she found out that he is MAGA.
Oh.
He was not okay with her beliefs. Like, I don't know what the conversation was about, I don't remember, but it was something relative to Trump kind of being an asshole, and he was like, "I firmly disagree."
Oh
And
my
so
god.
they were, like, having dinner, and then, like, after dinner, she was like, "Okay, well," she's sleeping over, so she's like, I'm expecting, to get cracked tonight, not a crack in sight."
Wait, this is the same guy or this is a different guy?
Yeah.
Okay.
That she was
How
most
long were they seeing each other? That always shocks me when stuff like that doesn't come up until way later. It's like, how do you avoid those conversations? That's, like, key information about someone.
I don't think it was very long, but I don't know. I don't really like, I didn't really ask her. So, after that moment in time, he's never contacted her again, okay? And
I
she's
mean,
been
good.
yeah, but
I
she's
feel like,
like, "I miss him." She's like, "I miss him, I like him. I'm willing to look past that if"
girl,
I'm like,
we gotta
"Well,
have some standards here.
listen." I'm like, "Listen, you ready to move past that? He's not." Anyway, fast forward to now. The last time they saw each other was November. Fast forward to now. This girl's been talking about this man So she's like, "Yeah, I actually changed my number, and so I don't know if he, like, tried to reach out to me, but he also recently followed me on Instagram, but he watches all my stories, but he doesn't say anything, da, 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 da." So she's kinda like, "I miss him." And I'm like, "If you miss him that damn much, just say hello, damn it."
Yeah,
Like, if you keep talking about him, you're wondering about him, then just reach out. If he responds, cool. If he doesn't, block him and keep it pushing.
right. It's like, just whatever. If
Okay.
that's your choice, go ahead.
She messages him. He responds kinda like, whatever, like, he responds, like, the next day or some shit, and it's just like, "Yeah, da, da, da." They have, like, a very brief conversation, and then I guess it got to the point where she was like, "Oh, take me here, like, let's go out and, like, take me here or whatever." And then he said, like, "Okay, we could do that this time." Basically, long story short, they set up plans 3 separate times. He cancels on her 3 separate times. Okay. So the first 2 times he cancels on her, she then messages him for Valentine's Day,
No.
and she's like, "What are you doing? Like,
What?
what are you doing? Like, let's have dinner."
This is making me sad. Like, go have some dignity. So she's like, "Let's do something for Valentine's Day, even though you canceled on me 3 times."
Sorry, this is 2 times up to this point. So he
Okay,
canceled
okay,
on her
okay.
twice, that's up to this point. She texts him for Valentine's Day, like, "Let's do something." He doesn't respond. So, like, maybe, like, 2 days later, she messages him like, "Hey, obviously, it's a one-sided way of interest, and, I can see that you're not interested, so I'm just gonna back off or whatever, and I wish you well." I'm like,
Perfect.
first of all, why the fuck? Why would you ever message a man like goodbye? Like, bitch, just say goodbye in your mind and block that man.
Right.
Move on.
I was like, perfect that she's finally, yeah, moving on clearly, but it's like, yeah, you don't need to say that. It
No,
is
so
it
then
is what it is. Take the information you have and act accordingly.
right, one would think. So he messages her back a day later and is like, I do care about you and I am interested in you. Let's go out this week. And what's funny about this is that I invited her to something like that week, right? So
Mm,
he probably like, messages her like the day before or whatever, right? So I was like, let's do this something. And she was like, yeah, let's do this, whatever. And so she's like, hey, I can't come because I kind of have
mm,
a date. And I'm like, "A date with who?" And she's like, "Yeah, that same guy." And I'm like, "Huh? The man who's canceled on you twice?"
damn.
And she's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, seriously messaging her like, "Ha ha, hee hee," but like, g girl,
Yeah.
like,
I, like
stand up. Like,
I don't
stand
even
up.
know what to say to people who make choices like that because it's like, "That's your choice." Like, I don't know what to tell
Literally.
you.
I'm like, "You're a grown ass woman," but I was
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna say, as a friend, I'm concerned.
Yeah. It's like, you know what's gonna happen. You have all the information you need that he has given you, said to your face, basically. Like, he
You
does
don't like
not like
her,
you, he does not respect you, he's just stringing you along.
literally. And I'm like, he probably has a girl, like wife, girlfriend,
Yeah.
mistress, fiance, whatever that's going on, he don't got time for you, nor does he care. Mind you, I already knew this man was gonna cancel, but I
Yeah.
just didn't say that because I didn't wanna be mean.
Yeah, of course. It's like, you'll see for yourself, girl.
Literally. I was just like, "Baby girl, really? Okay." I'm like, "What are you looking for out of this?" And she's like, "I don't know." And she's like, "I'm not delusional. I'm not gonna" actually, like, "I don't think it's more than what it is." And I'm like,
What even is it, though?
It's nothing. He's barely even responding to text. He's responding to text a couple of days later, sweetheart. She gets home, she whatever's probably getting ready, and then obviously he cancels, like, right before. Mind you, one of the first times he canceled on her because he had Pilates.
That's an excuse.
I would
I think that's a lie. I think he
I
just
would've
said that.
like, what the fuck? The way I would've blocked that man because they had recently bonded over the fact that they both like Pilates or whatever. So he's like, "I have Pilates. You didn't know that? Cancel it. Don't go, or
Yeah, that's
go and then come meet me
insane.
after." And then no, but the worst thing about it, the 3 times that he canceled, they were supposed to go to his house.
Oh my god.
Like, that was the plan. Like, he was like, "I'm gonna cook you dinner." No, the part that actually really pissed me off the most, she's like, "Yeah, if anything, I'll have dinner and yeah, and have at least get some peen." And I'm like,
Mhm.
"You're gonna be giving up your vagine to a man that literally can't even text you back the
The
same day?"
pain is not worth the vagine.
Literally, like, what? He can't even text you back the same day to say that I care about you.
Oh, this is sad.
Then, so she texts him like the most polite shit ever, like, "That's actually not, it's showing me that you don't respect me and that you don't care about my feelings." And he's like, "Damn it, I am trying to show you that I care about you. I'm really busy and I'm trying to fit you into my busy schedule and I thought you would understand." And he's like, "Please give me grace." And she's like, "Grace is a two-way street. Da 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 da." And then like said
Wasting
something
her
else.
time.
Literally. And like he doesn't respond. And she's like, "Yeah, I thought it was pretty mean."
What she said?
Yeah. I
Oh, no, no, no,
I'm
no.
like,
No, no,
"Oh,"
no. I'll show you mean.
like,
That's
really?
crazy.
Mean starts with an attack.
Yeah.
Mean starts with your
Mean
fr
is quite frankly what a lot of men deserve. Mean is like, I'm gonna tear you down to the size that you actually are. I'm gonna show you who you really are, and you're never gonna want to open your fucking mouth ever again.
Amen. Honestly, Claire might have to teach that class.
Dude, this is actually very relevant. I don't really have any personal chisme, but I just binge watched the latest season of Love is Blind, which I never usually watch. Do you ever watch it?
Love is blind? Fuck no.
Oh my god, I never usually watch it, but for some reason this latest season like sucked me in because I had nothing else to watch. And oh my god, like the type of men that your friend is dating, it's like all of them go on this show. And then there's just all these scenes of them. I mean, the show itself, like everyone who goes on the show is insane. But the men especially, there will literally be scenes of them like talking to the person they're supposed to marry. There's this one man in particular this season. He's probably my height. He must be like 5'3". It looks like he has eczema or something all over his face, which normally, listen, if you have a skin condition, that doesn't in and of itself make you ugly. But if you're already ugly on the inside, yeah, it's gonna make you look 100 times worse. So he already looks busted as fuck. He's short. He literally has the audacity to have a conversation with the person he's supposed to marry. And he goes, listen, I have to be honest with you. I'm just used to being with women who like go to Pilates multiple times a week and you don't even work out. And mind you, the woman he's talking to, she's like normal size body. Like, I mean, even if she was fat, obviously this is an insane thing to say, but the fact that she's like objectively skinny and like just a normal woman and he has the audacity to say this. And yeah, I've heard her like make statements like on Reddit and stuff. I feel like I've seen people be like, "Oh yeah, like she didn't want to like blow up on him on camera." But I'm like, "No, like we should be blowing up at them on camera. We should be blowing up. Period."
Yeah. Because why are men allowed to like get away with saying whatever the fuck they want?
Exactly. Like if you say something so crazy or act literally like an insane person, both this man on this show and the man that your friend is dealing with, like there should be repercussions. You don't get to be like, "Oh, I do care about you. I'm just so busy. Like it's obvious I care about you and I just need grace." I would be like, "Why do you feel like you're a 5-year-old? Why do you feel like you need to be babied? What's wrong with you? Seriously.
Literally, like, no, and
You're a grown ass man."
that's the
Yeah.
thing. It's like for me, I see that you're a waste of energy. You're a waste of
100%.
energy, you're a waste of time. I'm no longer going to be wasting that on you. Blockity. Blockity block. Like mid text back, like you're texting back, block. I
Yeah,
don't give a fuck what you have to say because you obviously you're gonna say some bullshit. Okay? And what am I gonna say to that? Like what can I say to a man that does not give a fuck about me?
exactly.
Like absolutely nothing that I can say is gonna make that man give a fuck about me. So
Nothing. Nothing.
not even gonna waste my time.
And even if there was, you shouldn't have to say it. That's the thing too. Like
Exactly.
you should never have to like essentially beg someone to care about you and keep coming back and be like, "No, no, like this is going to work out. We just aren't aligning right now." It's like, "No, no, no."
Like that's my thing. My thing is this relationships. they require hard work, but they really are supposed to be easy.
Yes,
It should not be
exactly.
like pulling teeth. It should not be like,
Exactly.
"Oh, wait, he doesn't understand me." Like, babe, he don't understand you because he doesn't wanna understand you.
Period.
Like, anything like, literally, like, a man will do what a man wants to do. That's why I'm like, there's nothing that you could do, there's nothing anybody could do to make a man wanna do something. If either they wanna do it or they fucking don't, okay? And we live in a patriarchal society, sweetheart,
Mhm.
that allows them to be the decision makers. "Oh, I want this girl today. I'm gonna go crazy and go fucking kill somebody because they looked at her." That's the type of society that we live in.
Yeah.
So,
Whatever they want, so if they're not even texting you back, like, I don't know what to tell you.
literally, baby, they don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah, really don't care. They don't care because if they cared, they would be nonstop texting you. They would be texting you so much that you're just like, "What is wrong with this guy? What the
Yeah.
fuck?" So,
Yeah, it's like you said, it really should be way easier than that. It should be straightforward. It
it's
does
that simple.
not have to be
You
that
you like
complicated.
me, I like you.
Yeah.
We like each other, and whenever we like each other, baby, it works. That you having to tell a man, "This is how I feel," and this, that, this, that, and then have a whole discussion with a man that you're not even dating? Baby, for
Don't.
what?
I hate it too because it honestly, like, enables them. It's like,
Exactly.
"Look, all these women want me. All these women are texting me trying to make plans." It's
And
like,
then
"Don't do
especially, like,
that to the rest of us. We
you're
need
a
these
young,
men to
attractive
know."
woman, like, you have a lot of things going for yourself. Why are you chasing a man who literally is, like, who wants to be chased?
Yeah.
Yuck. That's sassy. That's sassy behavior.
Yeah.
Like,
It's gross.
literally. Like, babe, if you wanna be that sassy, baby, go find a man who wants you. Because a lot of
Yeah.
men love sassy behavior.
Mhm.
Go be with a man. You know what I mean? Go find your right audience.
Yep.
Cause
'Cause
that's
it's
why it's
not
like,
us.
literally, like, I'm just like, I immediately if you do some shit as a man that's trying to attract me towards you, you do something that I do not like, you gotta go.
Yeah, it's
Like,
that simple. It's that simple. Like, I don't get why, especially when it comes to, like, beliefs too, how this guy was, like, MAGA. Like, we need to be
yeah,
thinking long term. How's that gonna work out? Even if you do chase this man, you beg for him, whatever. Okay, so now you're, like, consistently dating.
your family. He's gonna talk to your family and say something like that.
Exactly.
What if you end up pregnant and then you literally have a child with this person and then they're fucking telling them shit that you're just like,
Yeah.
no, no, immigrants are actually helpful to our society, son. I'm an immigrant and so is your dad who's saying that immigrants are bad. He's actually a brown looking man. He literally looks black. So no, immigrants are actually good, child. Like,
Nightmare. Yeah.
so yeah, it's just kind of like, and that's the thing, so I talked to her about it, and it was so funny because she was just like, "Yeah, I guess I am too nice," and I'm like, "Nice? Oh, that's what this is? Like you're being nice? Because this is more than nice, sweetheart.
Yeah, it's
Far more than nice."
nice is like, "Oh, you're being polite." That's, like, the beginning, right? But now it's been going on for so long, yeah, it's more than nice. It's like you're kind of, like, rolling out the red carpet for him to just, like, walk all over you.
No, literally, and it was what's crazy about it is she was just like, a lot of other women wouldn't tolerate this, and that's what pissed me off because it's like, if you know a lot of women wouldn't tolerate this, why the fuck are you tolerating it?
Yeah, did she say why? Like, what
She's just like, "I'm
why?
nice."
Girl.
Like, are you nice or are you a doormat?
Yeah, there's a difference.
And then to make matters worse, I'm like, "Please block this man." Please.
Yeah, like, at least do that.
Like, literally, like, I'm like, "Now you can block him. Block." And she's like, "Honestly, I'm not a blocker." I'm like, "I
Oh,
don't
they
give a."
always say that. They always say that, dude. Yeah. I'm sorry, women who let men walk all over them will always say that. "Well, I just don't block people." Well, you should.
Block?
Why not?
I'm like, "So what's gonna happen if he messages you again?" And he's like, "Hey, I wanna go out and, like, come over, I'll make you dinner." She's like, "No, well, we're gonna at least have to go to dinner."
Yeah,
Oh my god. I'm like, "What
I
do you want out
don't
of this?" I'm like,
know.
"He obviously has somebody.
There's That's
He has
sad.
somebody that's not you. He don't care about you. He don't like you. No, you gotta end it.
I
Like,
hate to say it, I mean, this is why most marriages fail. It's because most men do act like that, and then a lot of women also act like that, where it's like, everyone needs to be, like, thinking more long term about what they want in a fucking partner, like, not that everyone has to get married, I don't even think obviously, marriage is not a necessity, but it's just like, yeah, you can't just be letting people walk all over you, and you can't just be going for people who literally treat you like dirt. Think about what that's gonna mean. Like, exactly, what do you want out of this, and what's the end goal? Oh, are you gonna just date this guy for like, the short amount of time? It's like, well, why don't you find someone else? And if it's a long amount of time, it's like, girl, that's gonna literally fuck up your whole life.
and that's the thing, cause she was kind of like, "Yeah, at least I'm not delusional," like, making it out more than what it is, but it's like, so what she was trying to say was that, like, "I'm okay with this just being a sexual relationship," but it's like, you're giving your body to somebody that does not care about you.
Exactly. Exactly. It's
Why
like
would you do that?
if all you want is a casual sexual relationship, then at least find someone who's gonna like you back and who clearly wants that too. If he's not like obviously men are such I'm trying to be careful with not generalizing people. But so many men are also just looking for sex. So the fact that he won't even text you back, it's like
When he knows that you're offering it on a platter, hey,
you can find someone else who would want that.
easy, but not only that, it's like, okay, I want just a sexual relationship out of him or whatever he can give me, basically, and you're literally going to feel like shit. You're
Yeah.
not gonna feel good about yourself. Even if that man was like, "Okay, you're willing to have sex with me and I don't have to give you anything else other than that," you're just gonna be like, "Why am I allowing this man to make me into his little plaything?"
Right. 'Cause
Anyway, moving
that's
along.
sad. Um, yeah, well, I don't have any chisme, that I've been laying low this month because 'cause I'm saving money for my Japan trip.
Oh, come on. Get on.
So, that's it. So today is kind of a continuation of our episode 5, which was America the Violent, but now we're kinda diving deeper into why Americans basically shy away from standing up to the state and why they really aren't revolutionary and haven't been since its inception.
Go on.
I actually had just started a podcast about the history of American democracy, and it went into the American Revolution a little bit and how we have such misconceptions of what the American Revolution was. Like we always think and we're taught that the revolution was like no taxation without representation. It was people really gathering to protect their independence and to protect their individual interests in America, and that was a part of it, but the revolution also largely was brought on by the elites in America, the people who had come here earlier and were starting to gather this huge amount of wealth. And they basically were like, we just want to protect that. So it's funny to think that even the revolution that we had wasn't even tied to a general population kind of rising up and being like, we want collective protection, blah, blah, blah. There was part of that, but it was also largely these elites that have now continued to, own us. So, for my part, I wanna talk about the golden handcuffs, and I wanna talk about manufactured consent. So, for me, the golden handcuffs were something I wanted to bring up because it's a term that I hear so much living in San Francisco, and it makes my blood boil because you'll basically hear all these tech workers being like, "I can't leave my job at Uber. I can't leave my job at Palantir. I can't leave my job at OpenAI." Like, they have me in these golden handcuffs. I'm making so much money, and there's, like, such good perks. Like, we have free snacks in the office, like, I know that they're shitty companies, but what am I supposed to do?
I
And
gotta
it
get my
just
free snacks.
it kills me, but I think that like, tech workers saying that also kind of mirrors, I think, what a lot of the middle class thinks to themselves and why we have such a complacent middle class, because this concept of the golden handcuffs, along with manufactured consent, really keep the majority from doing much about the state of the country. So we all know how we obviously have such a crazy, disproportionate wealth distribution in this country where the 1% have all the wealth. And just to highlight that more, in 2025, 26% of US households only made between 25 and 50K, which is insane. That's what a quarter of the US is making. And yeah, so that difference is huge. But at the same time, we do still have one of the highest rates of people with disposable income when compared to other countries. So we do hear all the time that the middle class is shrinking, and that is true. But it's mostly because rich people are getting richer and poor are getting poorer. So a lot of people in the middle class throughout the past few decades have actually had upward mobility to kind of join the ranks of people getting richer and richer. So that means a lot more people are now insulated by this comfort. And of course, the majority of those people are white. I found a Substack that was published back in January when the ICE raids and killings were just starting to gain a lot more visibility on social media. And it was called All My White Friends Are Crashing Out and I Don't Know How to Feel. And it was specific to the ICE raids as an example of what happens when you're that insulated from what's going on in your country. But I feel like what they talked about can be applied to just the US as a whole, not just what's happening with ICE. One quote from that article that I pulled out, they said, "Many people were only okay as long as it wasn't them. They were willing to listen to our stories, but they were not willing to reorganize their lives, their leadership structures, their theology, their institutions, or their nervous systems around what those stories actually required. It's the same dynamic I see in government, in churches, in universities, in nonprofits, and in foundations. Institutions don't actually want transformation. They want creative management. Someone new to say something fresh while keeping the underlying structure intact. They want innovation without rupture, change without loss, and justice without giving anything up." Such a good quote. We mentioned DEI in one of our past episodes, and that quote really made me think about DEI in particular as an example of like what happens with a lot of the upper middle class and white people in this country. It's like they want to feel good. They know something's broken. They know things are wrong, but they don't want to change the system. So DEI and other similar initiatives like that, which gained traction during the BLM movement in 2020, like it's basically just a band-aid and kind of a slap in the face. It's like, we're not going to change anything, but we'll give you something that we can market to you as something that is helpful and impactful.
It makes us feel better.
It makes us feel better. And it's like, okay, people are actually having conversations about how fucked up this country is, about how fucked up race relations still are. Let's just act like we're doing something
Yeah.
about that.
Let's throw money at it.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, throw money about it. It's really just marketing. And it's like, it's also one of the reasons why I like do not want to be in marketing anymore, because I'm just like, marketing is such a shitty industry. Like, I don't know. That's besides the point. But
Done.
I mean, the type of marketing I do, I do a lot with small businesses, which is fine. But when you think about marketing as a whole for these companies, it's not just tied to their products, it's tied to their reputation. And marketing just does more to try to have people feel that companies and businesses are more like people than they are corporations. Marketing is what makes people be like, well, I'm going to buy from this because they have a better mission or they have DEI.
Mhm. I like
It,
this company better.
exactly. And it's just marketing.
Yeah.
They're all these companies are the same.
Mhm.
Anyways, I mentioned over the past several decades, there genuinely have been more and more conversations about the systemic structure that's in the US and how unfair it is, and how so much that was put in place within the past few decades are actively contributing to a lot of communities' detriment. And I think for a lot of people, particularly who I'm talking about, the white upper middle class, you hear so much negative shit every day that you either want to tune that out or you are like, shit is so bad, I better hold on to what I do have. So in tuning it out, we all see it, especially with people our age, turning to shopping. Everything is fucking shopping now. Every form of social media. We don't have social media anymore. We have different shopping platforms.
Oh.
TikTok is a direct competitor to Amazon. It's not a fucking social media. It's a shopping platform. So is Instagram. So is Pinterest. Everything is shopping, and it's all to make you just feel better. Yeah. I notice it too with a lot of people our age. No one really has hobbies, and I'm not blaming anyone for that because it's like your soul is so sucked by your 9 to 5 that you don't have time for anything else after. But then you see where it's people's entire personalities and hobbies outside of their job becomes like you're either shopping, you're going out to eat, or you're just
Consuming in some way.
yes, you're brain rotting on TikTok. It's just work, consume. So it's a distraction. And then yeah, there's also that second part, like I said, people do acknowledge what's happening in the US and understand that shit is bad. So they're like, I just need to keep my head down and keep doing what I'm doing and hold on to what I have. Like I want to buy a house. I don't give a fuck if I'm working for fucking Palantir to do it. I don't give a fuck if I'm working for Lockheed Martin. It is what it is. Who cares if my job is literally answering emails and working for a software that's literally getting people deported from their homes? I can't resist because I don't want to sacrifice what I have. So it's the golden handcuffs that I think makes people really apathetic towards what's happening. And then we also have manufactured consent, which is what makes people think that what's going on in the country is not only okay, but also at times positive. So this is speaking to the segment of upper class white America who is also more Republican. So manufactured consent is a theory from the 1920s that a writer named Walter Lippmann coined, but it was popularized in the 80s by Noam Chomsky and Edward Herman in their book called Manufacturing Consent. Noam Chomsky literally was in the Epstein files. So fuck him.
Yeah.
Fuck him. But also, he did not coin this term. So shout out to Walter Lippmann. Him being in the Epstein files does not invalidate this because Walter Lippmann knew what he was talking about. It's a good theory.
Thank you.
So basically, it's a theory that the US's mass media propaganda machine ensures citizens are willing and obedient towards society's structures and paradigms. And I mentioned that this especially affects more conservative Republicans because some examples of this would be like turning victims of state violence into criminals, just as they did in 2020 with police violence and the Black Lives Matter movement. Obviously, that didn't just end in 2020, but that was when a lot of that propaganda was being churned out. It was like this person died from police violence in the middle of the street, running away, literally with their back turned, but oh, they're a criminal, so they deserve to get shot like that. Same thing that's happening right now with the ICE killings. Oh, this woman was in her car. She shouldn't have been in her car. That's very threatening. She deserved to die. Other examples like the positioning of Israel to justify the genocide in Gaza. Like this is something that we've heard for years. Like it's complicated. Don't talk about it, or even the fact that it's anti-Semitic. So it's these talking points and messaging that get in your head and encourage you to be like, things are the way they are, or what's going on is justified. So with a lot of this manufactured consent, there's also a lot of scapegoating going on, right? So especially in terms of what's going on right now with ICE, there's the demonization of murder victims. And then there's also this messaging happening at the same time that's like, not only does this need to happen because these people being murdered on the streets deserve it, but also ICE needs to continue its programs because brown people are taking your jobs. So that then justifies the continuation of everything that's going on.
Even to that topic of manufactured consent, ICE going into Minneapolis in the first place, the whole thing was there's a Somali issue. The Somalis
Yeah.
are stealing the government money. And it's so funny because I have a friend, her family's, like, conservative or whatever. 'Cause she's conservative, but she's not a MAGA supporter. It was funny because she was, like, sending me stuff. She's like, "I wish you would see this." And I'm like, "See what?" A YouTube video of a man showing up to a daycare center that's closed and being like, "Why isn't that open? Where are the children?" And I'm just like, "This is definitely some type of propaganda.
Mm,
This makes no sense." I saw it with no facts. Like, I saw it with no facts. I was like, "This is obviously sensationalized." And even if everything that he said is true, even if he said there's a group of Somalians that are stealing the government's money, they're stealing billions of dollars from the government. The automatic solution to that issue is to arrest the individuals who are committing the crimes and put them in jail. Problem solved. If the money's recuperable, get the money back. Okay. And so she was like, that's not really the issue. The issue is that these people have taken this money and then use it within their community and are sending that money back to Somalia, which could potentially get into the hands of Al Shabaab. And I'm like, that's proven to be true?
yeah.
Well, she's like, "Not necessarily," but she's like, it's a possibility of that being the case." So I'm like, based off of the possibility of something being true, this entire community should be deported from the United States. 300,000 people should be
Right.
deported from the United States because a small group of people may have stolen billions of dollars from the government, which may have then been sent to Somalia and
Exactly.
may have gotten into the hands of Al Shabaab, a terrorist group that the United States has funded previously, supposedly, according to the current US government. So
That's a great
I'm like,
example.
listen, that was the whole reasoning behind them even saying Minneapolis is a hub. And obviously, we can see that Minneapolis was a literal target because of their governor that Trump does not like, and
Mhm.
because of the fact that these brown people were surrounded by a scandal which turned out to be completely untrue
Fall.
and literally was a white woman who was already in prison. So, no correlation to reality whatsoever, but that was literally their opportunity to manufacture consent. White Americans to be like, "Yes, this community is vile. They're Muslim. They don't speak English. They're brown, they're black, and they hate America. Bomb them and deport them."
Bo
No, literally, like,
Bomb
it's,
them, then deport them. No, literally, yeah.
like, insane.
Yeah,
So
that's why the manufactured consent goes hand in hand with this scapegoating. They use fear, right, which we talk about all the time. They use fear to really get people invested, and then it makes this propaganda way easier for people to just accept because they're like, "Well, I'm already angry. Like, I already agree with you. So whatever crazy story you have for me that doesn't even have dots that connect, it's like, whatever, it still validates the main thing, that just brown people are, like, taking over the country." Yeah.
we don't even recognize America anymore. What's funny is that whole phenomenon of this guy creating this video to basically use this as a pinpoint for the government to then correspond and manufacture consent for them to go in and be like, we need armed troops with full military to get America back on track. And there was a video that went viral. I don't know if you saw it, but there was a white man in Minneapolis who, I don't know, or maybe Minnesota, I'm not exactly sure where it was, but he confronts this Somalian woman in the grocery store.
My god.
And apparently he had researched this woman before, and he starts trying to ask her questions. So it's like recording, he's asking her a question, and she's like, what gives you the right as a nigger to get a loan for $550,000 for a home?" Basically, he was
Jesus.
mad that he can't afford to get a
Mhm.
$550,000 loan for a house, but this Somalian woman can. And so he fucked around and found out because, bitch, you're not gonna go on national fucking whatever. I don't give a fuck what you're trying to do. You're gonna go try to be racist towards a innocent woman who's just minding her fucking business shopping in the
Yeah.
grocery store, and you don't think that Americans are gonna find out who the fuck you are and make sure that they ruin your life? Babe, don't do that. Don't do that. But
Mm-mm. That actually reminds me too, I didn't even add this in the outline, but important correlation is that if you wanna look at manufactured consent in action outside of the US, Nazi Germany is also the best example because that's exactly what they were doing to Jewish people. It was like the same thing. They're taking your jobs, they're taking your wealth, they're taking everything. So we're going to be rounding them up, but also we need you as citizens to help us out. And so that's exactly, yeah, what's happening. These people feel emboldened now to go up to other American citizens, same thing, and say crazy shit like that and, yeah, do harm to them. It's insane. So yeah, that's a really good example. My other example that I put in here of manufactured consent is something relevant to my life that I noticed. This is a completely different, separate topic, but I remember last year my in-laws came to visit and my father-in-law was reading the Elon Musk biography by, I can't remember his name, but the author, he does a lot of biographies and he's known for being pretty conservative. But it's that biography, a lot of it has been like really debunked. The writer didn't even really do his due diligence. Obviously, there's a lot of lies that Elon Musk has used throughout his entire career. But that biography itself is also a form of manufactured consent because it kind of plays into this messaging that we have within the US that billionaires are like geniuses and they deserve to be where they are. They're on a different playing field and they're making all these hard decisions and bringing these ideas to life that we could never even dream of. I remember my father-in-law literally saying that, being like, "Oh, I'm reading this book. You know, he's not a great person, but it's just crazy how genius he is." And it's like, when
Crazy
in
government
reality,
money he's been given.
what'd you say?
I said it's crazy how much government money he's been given. Anybody can get away
Exactly.
with that much fucking government money.
Exactly. When in reality, it's just a guy who's had a leg up in society already and just basically learned to pump and up businesses from a young age and also
Came
make
from extreme
connections.
wealth
Yeah,
in
came from
apartheid
wealth.
South Africa, where his father was a colonialist. So, yeah, one would assume that he would do okay in a
So yeah,
society with money.
exactly.
Just saying.
Yeah. So not only do we have manufactured consent in terms of like turning on each other and yeah, exactly what you said, like that example, but also manufactured consent to just accept this insane hierarchy that we have in the US that just keeps getting worse and worse.
Mm.
And then another thing I wanted to bring up is that another way we have manufactured consent and propaganda that really pacifies us is this rhetoric that the US stands apart. And this kind of plays into our last few episodes about Western hegemony, how other countries are finally breaking away from that. But it's funny because I feel like a lot of our US citizens haven't broken away from that yet and still really view like the US as the gold standard when in reality
American
American exceptionalism is so widespread, basically causes so many people to overlook the fact that a majority of the US is third world conditions. So I found another really good Substack article called First the Philippines, Now the US. And it was really about what happened in the Philippines throughout colonialism and how that is correlated to what's happening in the US right now, which was really interesting. So they said, being taught political science from a very westernized lens, as progressive as we were in Wisconsin, the impression I had always had of my mother's home country was that it was a fragile democracy because it was new, full of colonized people who looked to strongman leadership because it was all they'd ever known. After hundreds of years of Chinese, Spanish, American, and Japanese conquest, Filipinos simply had not had enough experience in democracy to know the best way to maintain it. Even taking college level courses, an image of my people was painted for me of the unassuming and naive brown islander who so sucked at proper self governance that they voluntarily gave their rights to the likes of Ferdinand Marcos Sr. Well, if that was the case for mid century Filipinos, what is our excuse as turn of the millennial Americans? Shouldn't we have known better? And yeah, period. I just felt like that the Philippines is just one example, but the same could be said for a lot of different countries who
every country that the US
yeah, every country that had to deal with US imperialism. Like, that's exactly what we're taught, that
were the
people
exception.
in those countries needed the help, they don't know any better, they would have struggled without us, and we're the savior. Yeah,
The
but
savior.
it's like, it's really time we looked inward, literally, because In this country, we either, yeah, excuse what's happening, we pacify ourselves and we don't wanna sacrifice we have, or we genuinely think it's normal.
And to that point, in the US, we've always claimed democracy, but it's always been kind of looked at with a side eye because it's like, what about the civil rights of your citizens? What about the atrocities that are committed against brown and black people that are just normalized? Like the amount of black people that are killed by the police or killed by the state on a normal rate, and people don't even bat their eyes because it's something that is just a normal part of our society. Yet when that expanded, like now, oh shit, a white woman is killed by the cops. Even white women being harmed by ICE or like elderly women, you're seeing it's like, wow, they really don't give a fuck about any of you. And this is not
Mhm,
normal. This is not the form of normal that we're used to. We're used to a certain portion of the population being targeted, even if they are innocent. But now seeing the majority of our population being targeted as well, it's like, okay, so there's no discrimination now. It's just everybody for themselves.
mhm. Yeah, I still feel like for white people too, though, it's like that Substack that I found earlier about how white people just don't even want any change if it doesn't have to do with them. I still feel like even though now it's having to do with them, it's still going to take so long for the majority to really feel like they should do anything about it. Because if you see what has been happening to like black and brown people for like forever and just turn a blind eye, I just think even for white people to see other white people being murdered in the street, it's like you're so desensitized to that now at this point because you just like did not give a fuck for so long. So it's like I don't know. Are we really gonna wake up? I do think that more people are, but I think it's gonna take some more time. Another quote I found that was really good to kind of wrap this up in a bow. This girl wrote, "The way we live in the US is not normal," obviously. And she basically was like an expat. So she kind of wrote about her time
Fuck you.
moving away from the US and how it compared to living in the US. She was like, "Yeah, I began to notice a learned helplessness in the US where people don't revolt at the notion of a college education costing hundreds of thousands of dollars. I wondered why so many people treat it as completely normal that we have GoFundMe campaigns to help people pay for life-saving medical care that their health insurance won't cover." Like, that's just even a few examples. And now, yeah, like, white people are getting shot in the street. And it's like,
I feel like seeing, like, white people get murdered was a visceral reaction, like, around the country. And it was like, "Okay, this is where we are." Like, especially even for black people, like, and brown people, because it's like the brown people they're getting rounded up into concentration camps.
yeah,
People don't really give a fuck about that, but some people do, some people don't. Even the black people were like, "That's not our right to fight." Da, 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 this whole, like, bullshit individualistic mindset bullshit.
right.
Save white supremacy bullshit mindset. And then you have these murders and it's like, okay, this is different. You could kill a black person. You could, maybe kill a brown person, but to just kill a white person, an innocent white person, I feel like that did send
Yeah.
a message throughout the country of like, this is not normal. This is actually something that I'm going to talk about in my section. There's a specific quote, and I think it was from Barbara Walters, who's a professor.
Oh, I
She
didn't know
wrote
that.
a book about civil wars. She basically was like, the way that revolutions happen or civil wars happen is violence being enacted against innocent people.
Mhm.
And when we say innocent
Mhm.
people, we're talking about white people. Okay, because
Mhm. Yeah.
that's the majority of our country, and that's who the whites care about. They care about other white people.
That's who they view as innocent. Yeah. Almost. I would say I do agree. I do think we're at a reckoning point, and I think there is a positive. Obviously, we saw Minneapolis fully rise up and do like a citywide walkout, which was amazing. We haven't seen a general strike like that in what? It was like decades since the 40s or some shit. There's a lot that is happening that hasn't happened in decades. Even here in San Francisco, this is not related to what's happening with ICE, but the teachers union led a 4-day strike and won better pay for themselves and better conditions for students. And then months ago, we had Starbucks workers nationwide walk out too. I do think that there is more and more people realizing, and I do think more and more people will start to also wake up, but I definitely think that for a big portion of people in the US, though, so much of this complacency is not really going to rattle anyone. I still even see on my social media just so many people still talking about the same old shit. Not that you have to be constantly posting about what's happening in the news to like signal that you give a shit, but just even the conversations that you have with people day to day, it's like, where I went to eat last night and I just bought this thing, like blah, blah, blah. Obviously, I don't want to put down just having normal conversations like that. I'm not saying like if we want to get serious in this country, we need to completely boycott every single day. Like that's very extreme too. But yeah, I think more and more people should be really looking into what am I doing on a day to day and what can I be doing more of? Because there are people striking, taking up collective power, and doing specific boycotts, and it's not hard things either to do. So I would just hope that more people start to realize even a little bit counts. So there's this amazing article. This is one I recommend the most of all the ones that I found for this research. This was in response to the Epstein files, and it's literally called Playing in Your Face. I definitely recommend reading the whole article. But they said power that hides is weak and power that performs is absolute. And I think that speaks on what we're seeing in the US as a whole because the people in power right now are not fucking hiding. Like this shit is out in the open. This shit is readily searchable in regards to like what they have been doing to get their power, what they now are doing to American people. They are 100% playing in our faces. So it's like, what are we going to do about it?
That's the motherfucking question. What are you gonna do about it, bitch? On that lovely note, my section is split up into 2 factions of why Americans aren't revolutionary, and then also what if it gets to the point where Americans can get it together. But, some of the things that I'm gonna address is basically what are the constraints? You mentioned some of those constraints that keep us from achieving what we're set out to achieve. What would it take for Americans to actually be like, "Fuck this bitch. I don't go fuck. I'll die about this."
Mhm.
You know? You mentioned in your segment, we're getting to the point of no return. Like getting to the point of like, all right, there's 14 levels or 14 different phases of fascism, and we're at the point where we've reached all 14 of those. Okay. It's actually funny because I was reading an article and it was a similar title to what we have, like Americans are not revolutionary, but it was kind of saying, well, Americans don't want a revolution. And it was 2024 right after Trump got elected, and it was kind of like, yeah, well, we still have a democracy, we still have a constitution, we still have the rule of law, we still have things that are going to prevent everything from just falling into shit or whatever. And it's just
2
so
years later.
not even like
Yeah.
literally a year and a month later, because this was late December. It's quite a different story. Not many people are saying, like, yeah, this is still a democratic country, and it would take a lot for this to happen like that. That's of the past. So it's funny how like just a year ago seems like so long ago because this seems like this has been happening for so long. Basically, we're at the point where we are in a revolutionary crisis, right? We're at the point where this could lead to a revolution because he is completely unfit to rule over our population. And then somebody also made this claim of Trump's crimes against American liberties being similar and even going over that of the king and the parliament in the 1770s that led to like the United States actually becoming its own country. And
Mhm.
so, what former federal judge Michael Ludig wrote in The Atlantic that this is the end of rule of law in the United States. And so that's where we are. We're at a place where all the experts are ringing the alarm and then pretty much saying, this is horrible.
It's interesting too that the MAGA camp is so obsessed with the Constitution because in the Constitution, when they wrote all men are created equal, they were very specifically talking about men being equal to kings. Like there can be no kings because we're all equal,
Mm,
specifically white men,
yeah.
right? Of course. So yeah, it's interesting. That's the one part of the Constitution where it's like, yeah, you're right, even though you're only talking about a very specific small set of people. But that even when it comes to MAGA and Trump and the people around him, everything he's doing is directly in opposition of that, like, very first line of the fucking Constitution.
literally. And so one of these, articles, they actually, like, listed several things. They were like, "Listen, we can't even say all of the violations of the Constitution because it's too long to list, but there's very clear examples, and one of the main things are, like, he's dominating both branches of the government, and then he's also encouraging violence against legislators, judges, and families of people that he does not agree with. Like, he's going after his political enemies, he's threatening the media, he's threatening universities, and he's making sure that anybody who's innocent and who doesn't agree with his tactics, he's illegally sending away without due process." So, yeah, we're at the end of the rule of law. So the president has more than violated his oath to the Constitution, and he's no longer a constitutional president, which therefore means we as the people have the right to protect ourselves from a tyrant. And so it's interesting because as we talk about civil war or revolution or rebellion, things like that, I just wanted to clarify some of the definitions of
Mhm.
these terms just so that we're all on the same page about like, what it means. When we talk about the insurrection, I like to say coup d'etat because that's something that we recognize as American people to be something bad, something worse than an insurrection. But the actual term is insurrection because an insurrection is violent act or like act of rebellion basically against the government that's from its own citizens. Whereas a coup d'etat is a removal of the head of the government by military, basically society's military.
Um, it was an attempted coup, basically. They were literally, like, trying to kill the vice president and shit,
I
so
mean, it would have still not been a coup because the only way that an actual coup can happen is if it's the military. But if it's
okay,
from
okay,
the
okay, yeah.
citizens
True, true, true.
themselves, then it could be a revolution, a rebellion, or an insurrection. So that's
Okay,
why
these
they call it
definitions are helpful, thank you.
right? Like, because 'cause I'm like, "And that
Yes.
feels like it." I'm like, "To me, baby, no."
Yeah, I thought it was too, I'm like, "Damn."
That's why they call it an insurrection because it's actually from the citizens against the government, and so a coup is really when the military comes and forcibly removes the head of state, and a rebellion is, like, large scale violence against the state from civilian from
Mhm.
but rebellions are literally like, we're rebelling against this and that, not necessarily like the entire structure of our society. So I just wanted to go over those just so we know the terms and what they mean. Revolution, for example, revolutions are meant to sweep away the old order and they can cause radical changes. And so it's different from a rebellion or even a coup because a rebellion in itself is trying to change like a specific thing, maybe within the government, but you know, keeping the norm. A coup is really just a military, and like the civilian population really is not involved very much in that process. So moving along, listening to speeches from the Heritage Foundation right before Trump took power, it's really interesting because they specifically say there's a revolution happening. Like we are the revolution. And so Trump's goal is to revolutionize the United States. And so one of the things that they said within some of the speeches is we're going to have a revolution whether the left wants it to happen or not. And it all depends on them. If there's blood, it depends on the left because we're going to change it regardless. The Trump administration views their actions as a revolution, yet the American public does not view it as such. You know, he said specifically, it's going to happen whether we have to shed blood or not. And so far, they've really have just been able to do whatever the fuck they want to do with no
Mhm.
whatsoever,
They're
which is
definitely
it's
shedding blood.
exactly. I mean, they're shedding blood, but you're shedding blood of innocent civilians, not
Yeah.
of people trying to stop you from doing what you're doing.
Mm.
But more than that, you know, I feel like the American people, we not only are we neglecting to realize that our government has basically said that they're having a revolution, whether we want this revolution to happen or not. But another thing is like our government is actually at war with us. Something that you hear a lot if you listen to the Secretary of War or if you listen to Trump at all is really how they say America has domestic terrorists, domestic enemies. You know, something that Pete Hegseth actually wrote in his own book, The War on Warriors. He wrote, America today is in a cold civil war because we allowed America's domestic enemies at home to gobble up cultural, political, and spiritual territory. The rhetoric that Hegseth is spreading is that, and Trump is spreading, is that we're at war. We're at war with the government. The government is literally at war with people who they believe to be dissidents, dissidents of their rule. And so whether or not we realize that, whether or not we're complacent, whether or not we think that hopefully things will just get better, our government is actively moving against us. And as you can see, they will immediately militarize and occupy a city that they deem to be a threat in any way to their goals. So, something that I found interesting as well is that basically the way the wealth gap that we have, we've actually seen it before. And this was in 1876. Every generation of kids, the kids are richer, the kids are smarter. And this is kind of one of the first times that middle class kids are not doing better than their parents. And
Mhm.
only 50% of middle class kids achieve that compared to 90% of middle class children doing
Mhm.
better than their parents in the 90s and the
Yeah, because
1940s.
there's that portion that's actually getting poorer.
Yes. So in the Gilded Age, this was actually the norm. And so the same exact thing happened where they called them the robber barons, and these were the industrialists, and they were just having these huge monopolies with all these technological breakthroughs of, everything that was super crazy. And so they're flaunting their wealth. And so there's just a very visible gap of wealth between the middle class and the poor even. There was also immigration that was going on, and there was the same rhetoric that was being spread
Mhm.
of, "We need to get these immigrants out, they're taking our jobs." So there was a scapegoat at that time,
Yeah.
and it was getting to the point where things were dire. But right in 1900 came the progressive era. So Theodore Roosevelt, because
Titty.
he basically stopped any kind of negative drift towards the United States having a revolution. He made reform a huge part of his administration, and he, one, improved the labor conditions and workers' rights, started regulating big business. He also implemented consumer protection laws and started conserving natural resources. And he actually doubled the number of national parks that we had. So
Titty.
literally, Big Teddy. So at that same time, we also had the women's suffrage movement and women being able to vote in 1920. So a lot of the qualms that, would have led to revolution, Teddy saved the US from that happening.
Mhm.
And so that's kind of really one of the only other times that we've gotten to this point of like people really being like, this is not gonna end well. But then when we jump back to today, only 22% of US adults say that they actually trust the federal government to do the right thing, which is down from 77% 6 decades ago. So within every decade, that has gone down by 10%.
Mhm.
Not only that, but only 32% of people trust churches and organized religion, which is down from 65% in the 70s. And the trust in the medical system has also fallen from 80 to 36% in the same time period. So we do not trust our institutions in any way, shape, or form. And that is not a good indication of where we are as a society. But like Claire was saying previously, civil war in the country is not something that we consider to be highly likely right now. I think it's something that might have to take some time because it's like you said, it's at the point where everybody can identify that this is bad,
Mhm.
this is not normal. But people are also not at the point where they're like, I'm gonna not go to work and protest against the government. Like
Yeah.
I'm not gonna I'm not gonna buy from Amazon any longer. Like, we're not at that point yet where people are sacrificing themselves or making big sacrifices to go against what's currently happening. And so one of the things that a lot of people think about when you think about civil wars is that when our government and our military have so much money, so many weapons, and that's going to be a crazy thing to go against. And then another thing is our presence on social media. And there's so many different voices that are on social media that people are just more and more polarized. And obviously, as you can see with even TikTok, like all of our major social media networks are owned by billionaires who are paid by a certain state in the Middle
Mhm.
East to perpetuate
Mhm.
propaganda.
It's all propaganda or it's shopping.
Literally, literally. That's the entire purpose. Um, I was reading a lot of different things as well, and so one of the main questions that came up were, if we had a civil war, who would be the group that would receive power? Usually there's a leading movement, there's a leading group of people or an alternative group of people that are like, "Hey, we have a plan for how we wanna move forward." Right now, we don't have any
No.
dominant group that would be ready to run the government or to create an alternative that we, the American people, could agree upon. So, most likely, it would take years of organized conflict between the government and our resistance group for them to actually come to agreement and say, okay, this is what we're willing to negotiate on, or this is where we disagree, and this is what needs it to stop. Typically, there's a group that leads the faction, and sometimes, in some cases, and a lot of people were alluding to this, is that most likely in the case of the United States, it won't necessarily be just two groups of people fighting against each other. It might be multiple groups of people fighting against each other. So we have no idea how that looks like. A lot of what I will talk about in this segment is kind of what the theories are about what would it even look like for the United States to get to that point of civil war or even a revolution. And two, like how we're not really in the mindset yet to take on that endeavor. So why are Americans not revolutionary? One, we don't know shit about our fucking history. Okay. We know nothing about our history, and not only do we not know anything about our history, we don't know shit. Like, literally, statistically, this is the first generation that kids are dumber than their parents. Like, no, the stat it was actually, someone who was saying this, who was a doctor speaking to Congress, and he was talking about the damages of ed tech, basically, of education tech, and he was like, "We've done all these studies, we've done research, and first of all, the kids are stupid, the
Yeah.
kids are dumber than their parents, and that's never happened, like, in our history. Every generation, the kids are smarter." And he's like, "This is the only generation where the kids are actually not smarter than their parents, and it's because of ed tech, because humans, we don't learn from a computer, like, we can't.
Yeah.
We learn from other people telling us or teaching us, talking to us." They're literally creating an entire industry that is not needed. We have so much technology and it's the worst thing for us. It's literally killing us and making us dumber, making us talk less to each other, making us more isolated, less engaged. And we're just like, let's keep funneling more money into this because the people with money want more money. Manufactured consent. No.
Mhm. Exactly.
So this is the first generation of kids that are actually dumber than their parents. And like I said before, we don't have a cohesive group of people who are rebels, right? It's just the wild, wild west. It's everybody doesn't fuck with the government. But another thing is because of our individualism, the amount of individualism that we have that's rooted in capitalism and rooted in Americanism, like I like to call it, it really does prevent us from cooperating as a team and seeing things in a collective way. And it's very hard for us to go against what we've been taught our entire lives to then come together, especially in a political climate where everybody's against each other and nobody can look at the other person. Like everybody's like, I hate you. And then another thing is, you know, like you were saying, Claire, we idolize the elite, like those who rig the game, who are able to win the game of capitalism, are looked at as the heroes of our society. And as we look at those people as the heroes, they tell us, and they've spent billions of dollars telling us and trying to use it in propaganda and within all these type of tools to tell us that we should not support each other and we should support them, that they are actually the geniuses and we're the idiots for not learning how to rig the system the way that they did. So it's that belief of being able to have someone else tell you that you should not support your fellow man. For example, streamer, his name's Clavicular.
Oh my
I don't know if
god.
you've heard of
I've been
him.
hearing
Hopefully
so
not.
had no idea who he was until this week, and now I've been hearing about him nonstop.
Yeah, when I found out about him, I was just like, what is this? Because I had not encountered that part of the internet yet. Basically, he's a kid He's like a young adult, and he made his platform off of looks maxing. Like, he's literally broken bones in his face, does all this research on how to optimize your facial structure, and it's completely changed his face and his body. And he takes all types of drugs and supplements, including methamphetamine, because he says that it actually hollows out his cheeks the way that he wants it. But obviously, sir, you're just a fucking drug addict. But that's beside the point. So yeah, it's really just some wild wild west shit. Anyway, he has a huge platform. A whole bunch of weird red pill white kids follow him. He went to the clubs in South Beach with the Tate brothers, Nick Fuentes, and I think
Mhm.
Nico, and they all started singing this song, like Kanye West song, like Heil Hitler,
Mhm.
in the club and in the fucking vehicle before arriving. So yeah, turns out all of those guys are sponsored by Peter Thiel. Just like, how do they have so much money? How are they getting this money? Where's it coming from? It's coming from Peter Thiel. So the elite, the billionaires are literally pouring in billions of dollars to influence us. Like, and I was reading something the other day where it's like every time you open your phone, like the more that you pick up your phone, the more money that people make off of you. What people are paying for is your attention. So as
Yeah.
quickly as they can get your attention, the more money that they could possibly make off of you. So that aside,
I think I'm
that's
gonna
just
go on a social media cleanse, a 30-day cleanse in
it's
March.
bro, it really gotta happen because it's destroying us. It's literally destroying us. So you have the billionaires literally funding influencers, funding, people who can use propaganda to capture a large audience and to change their mind. But then also, as Americans, we're so susceptible to propaganda because we're so uneducated. I love this Reddit quote from this one guy, and he says he's a European. He said, "From here, it looks like propaganda in the US has been brutally effective. People seem constantly outraged in the moment, but that outrage is quickly redirected against powerless scapegoats like immigrants, or it fizzles out. Education gave people the tools to see through propaganda. Agitation turned anger into action, and organization kept people from being picked off or divided. In the US, those structures, unions, parties, mutual aid networks, were deliberately broken by the ruling class. Without them, people were atomized, overworked, drowning in debt, and left to process each new adage as isolated individuals. Under those conditions, propaganda doesn't just work, it's devastatingly effective." And as an example to that, I wanted to talk about the Black Panthers movement
Mhm.
and how it was a collective movement and it really brought the entire Black community together, which is why it was a threat that the government wanted to take out. And so that's just an example of anytime that you have a coalition of people who are doing good things in their community and are helping each other, the government shuts that down because they do not like to see groups of people collectively doing something that goes against their authority. Anybody saying that we should make sure that we retain our power, the government sees that as a threat to their authority. As an alternative, as they killed all the Black Panthers and arrested them and had them in jail and everything, as you can see from that quote, it's like without the Black Panthers, those same Black people were now isolated individuals. They're drowning in debt, they're overworked, and now every single outrage that they experience, they're left to process that on their own. And they don't have a collective network of people where they can actually be like, this is upsetting to us. Let's go protest. Let's go do that and this so that we can let people know that we're collectively outraged. So that is a tool of the government to continue to separate us from one another and to make sure that you never garner political power, especially power that can reach a mass amount of people. So his quote says, "From the outside, it looks like the problem isn't that Americans don't care, but that they've been systematically denied the means to turn outrage into power."
Mhm. That's a
And
good way to put it.
yeah, I think that's the best way to put it really because all of the tools that Americans could possibly use to determine that this is not normal and that this should absolutely end at this moment, those tools have been taken away from us. So now, instead of us having any sort of collective outrage, it's literally like every American is siloed. And something that they even said was like, it's a detriment is like us having social media, for example. It's literally just 1,000 of singular voices saying things. 1,000 singular voices saying things might sound great when you're flipping through Instagram, but how the fuck is that going to bring any change? How is that going to bring a collective together? Because it's just further separating us, because we're all getting outraged by the things that we see and hear, yet we're still not doing anything about it because we have no connections in real life. We only have internet-based connections. So that's another way that the government has used social media to separate us. And then it's also just a tool for them to continue, like you said, making us consumers and spreading that propaganda. And as they do that, who cares if there's 1,000 different people saying different messages saying fuck the government? Those 1,000 different people saying fuck the government are separate. They're all by themselves.
Mhm.
And and like really talking into a void, you know? So that was another point that some of the experts were making. We've gotten to the point where we've lost community ties. There's less trust within our communities, within American society. You are not gonna leave your kid outside for more than 5 fucking minutes by themselves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We don't trust our society. We don't talk to our neighbors. There's no community events, and even if there are, you're like, "I'm not going to that shit." People don't believe within the political system whatsoever, and so we have this fragmentation of our society, and it really does create more isolation. It creates more individualism, and that makes people more vulnerable to things that are more polarizing, to believing things that are more outlandish, because you can't just talk about it. And that's another thing that I had mentioned in our one of our last podcasts, was how statistically Americans do not talk about politics with one another. Like,
Mhm.
Americans will go online, da 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 da, but to talk to somebody face to face about politics, it doesn't happen. You
Yeah.
know, so it's really getting to the point where you're gonna go watch something, and that one thing can lead you down a whole web of things that could further radicalize you. And you're not talking about it. You're isolated. You're by yourself. And the more that you're watching these things, the more that you're isolating yourself from other people that you know, because you're like, hey, you might not get this. And so the internet has a way of further isolating us, and that is to the benefit of the government, and that is against our benefit as human beings and as American citizens.
I'm, like, deleting apps from my phone as you speak. I'm like, "I really need to take a break from social media."
You're
I'm
like,
like, fuck this," literally.
no, seriously, because it's like at the end of the day, if you just do a reverse search of the apps that I use and then billionaires that own it, and then look at their interests, like look at
Yeah,
where they've been spending their money,
it's
who they've been donating their
insane.
money to, what organizations they're involved in, it's all to the detriment of our society and our democracy. Societies with weaker social networks are vulnerable to extremes. There's a ton of surveys that show that Americans are less likely to join clubs, they're less likely to attend civic meetings or maintain dense local networks than previous generations. And all of the things like trust, face to face engagement, and connecting at a neighborhood level have declined. So instead of having these communal anchors, everything is kind of like an individual grievance. So something that I also have been researching on my own, because I'm writing an article about this as well, the decline of like education, and obviously phones have a lot to do with that. I mean, phones are literally probably like the worst things that we could possibly have as human beings. Like literally, like I'm so like honestly, you don't even need to call people for real.
Yeah, yeah, I always go back to, like, the fact that my parents always say, like, it was easier to talk to people when they had landlines too, because people were way more intentional about communicating. Like, having a smartphone in particular, it's just too much. It's like you just ignore people talking to you because it's too much information all at once. You have your social media, then it's like people texting you constantly, let alone a phone call. Like, no one answers the fucking phone anymore.
Literally.
Yeah.
But even before that, like if you think about even before people had phones, people were way more intentional about seeing
Yeah, that's
people.
true too.
Like,
Yeah.
I'm coming over, or let's plan this. I was like, just call me and we'll talk. Or just
Mhm.
FaceTime me. And so it's kind of like we're together, but we're not. Whereas before, there was family cookouts, there was more activities,
Yeah.
people were together. And there was a focus on community, because you didn't have the option of calling somebody and seeing if they were home. You just had to stop by and be like, I just stopped by to see if you're home. I'm so happy you're
Yeah,
here.
I was talking about this with someone the other day too. Like, imagine if you just stopped by a friend's house in this day and age. They'd be
You
like, if
didn't
you
even
did that
call me.
multiple times, they'd be like, "You're fucking scaring me."
Yeah.
Like, you cannot stop by
Yeah,
unannounced.
like, what? Yeah, like, absolutely not. Like, nowadays, like, you don't even call and announce. You're like, "Hey, you wanna talk on this day?" You know? Like, even, like, a spontaneous call is like, "Oh, shit, she must need something."
Yeah.
Some of the friends I've been talking to lately, they're callers, so they'll call, and I do feel closer to them because even if we see each other in person, the fact that we're talking on the phone, I'm like, wow, I haven't done that in so long, just regularly. So it is funny that how phones have really gotten us to the point of we don't talk to each other. Especially in terms of education, we've gotten to the point where misinformation is received. It's received readily. And this is really linked to a lot of the weaknesses that are within our education system that are not teaching us to cultivate critical thinking, which is the main defense against propaganda. Which me as a critical thinker, if I go back to that example of the Somalians, right? And we say, hey, some members of an immigrant population in the United States are stealing money, and a mass group of people say we should deport them because they're bad. They're bad. We should deport them because they're bad, right? My immediate thought is, who is stealing the most money from the
Yeah.
American government currently? And so the fact that we're not at the point of critical thinking to determine, hey, we've heard that Trump has stolen American dollars. We've heard that Trump is suing the IRS for $10 billion of US taxpayer money. We've heard that Saudi Arabia has paid him a quadrillion amount of dollars for his influence and for them to get US chips that they were not allowed to have. But we're not able to critically deduce that these are the things that we consider to be bad. This is why we're mad at the Somalian community. Why are we not having that same anger towards someone stealing more of our money? Right? That logical thing that we all think is kind of just innate, it's not. Those are things that we're taught. We're taught to think critically. Some people have that ability, some people do not, but yet it could be harvested. Samuel Bowles and Herbert Gintis are two researchers.
Unfortunate names. Sorry.
They argued that American schooling has historically mirrored capitalist labor structures with hierarchy, discipline, and preparation for the workforce rather than cultivating critical, autonomous citizens. As I was reading this article, it's saying the entire purpose of kids going to college is for a job. College is a time where you're educating yourself. You're choosing a subject that you care about the most to educate yourself in that subject. But in reality, college is a time where kids say, I want to make more money. I don't want to be poor. So I'm going to college so that I can work for such and such company. I'm going to college so I can be a lawyer so that I can make such and such amount of money. And this is another tenet of why we're so individualistic. Because if our entire schooling system is mirrored off of our capitalist structure of my labor is tied to me making money and I want to make money and I want to be at a good position in this hierarchy, right? If that's the entire purpose of us going to school, then why the fuck would we care about thinking critically or analyzing
Mhm.
anything or
And
working
why
as a
would we
collective?
question that
Yeah.
system? Yeah.
We don't question that system because it benefits us. We believe that it benefits us as individuals. That's what perpetuates individualism. Because if I can go to college and I become an engineer, like you said, the golden cuff syndrome, I benefit
Mhm.
from this. So
Yep.
I don't see why I should stop. Even as a collective, we could see that it's to the detriment of all of us. It's not only to the detriment of you who you feel like you're benefiting, it's to the detriment of every single person in this country. So it's really rooted in every single thing that we do as Americans. When you have that type of educational system, of course, everything's going to be shaped by the market. And instead of actually helping people cultivate deep critical thinking, and even as this article states, democratic literacy, which would otherwise act as societal buffers against propaganda's influence. Yes, this is kind of what you were saying, Claire. More specifically, this link between capitalism and individualism and consumerism, it's literally materialism. Like it's a form of propaganda that
Mhm.
makes people conform. Like you said, we're gonna buy something so that we can feel better about what's going
Yeah.
on because we're being sold so much. And that materialism helps us to feel better about our society, undermines our well-being, and it detracts from our social values like collective thinking because I want to be at a higher place in this hierarchy. I want to have the materials, the Prada, the Gucci, the Louis, the BMW, all of that, so that I can show people that I am at a higher level in this hierarchy and that I I'm doing well. Despite how you might be doing, I do well. So at the end of the day, this does absolutely nothing to help us as a collective society. And so for these reasons that I'm, listing, these are pretty much most of the reasons why we as Americans are not revolutionary. We've been conditioned and kind of battered into this place of being super isolated and just being materialist consumers. And those are two main criteria of people who don't give a fuck about other people. That really doesn't help us, move forward as a society. Some of the other things that people are saying is Americans are optimistic and we're unusually optimistic, which is a strength, but it's also something that can be taken advantage of, especially when people say this could be great. And so back to our good girl, Barbara Walter. She specifically is saying that the indicators of civil war are actually here in the country. They already exist. She says, we're a developed country. We have a constitution, but we have an elite that is strong. We have signs of oligarchy. Okay? We have oligarchs. We have ethnic and racial polarization. We have infant mortality that's increasing. We have extremely high levels of income inequality. And also another indicator, which is a big indicator of civil war, is a prior civil war. The United States has had a civil war previously. In countries who've had civil wars before, there's memories or stories and there's narratives that are told throughout generations, which become a fabric of that society. It's kind of like those grievances are still alive, so people still understand what was the reason why people did what they did back in that time. When political actors basically don't abide by the social contract that society is supposed to abide by, basically, Barbara says we should start getting nervous. Barbara's nervous because, yeah, baby, we're kind of getting to that point.
If Barbara's nervous, I'm nervous.
And yeah, literally, and Barbara's like, baby, I'm an expert. So she literally teaches this. So Barbara's like, baby, it's not looking good. Barbara also points out to different examples of other countries who have had wealth and power, but also slipped into a civil war. And so the example that Barbara points out to is Yugoslavia. And it's basically got to the point, a similar point in the United States, where the elites pushed the political system to a point where all these extreme nationalists were dominating that society. Basically, they pummeled that to the ground. And what Barbara mentions is human societies can decivilize. They can actually determine that, look, even if we're growing economically, we're supposed to have these tenets of society that
Mm,
are supposed to make us better than other people, like that American exceptionalism. It can absolutely happen in any type of society.
yeah. Especially too, it sounds like what you're talking about is like a social contract, right? We have a
Yes,
social contract, but especially when you think about the fact that the elites have been breaking that social contract through and through. Once it can be broken, obviously there's nothing to say that it's not going to be broken for everyone else.
exactly. Exactly. And so as the elite have broken that social contract and they're doing basically whatever the fuck they want to do to maintain their power and their privilege, it's getting scarier for us as civilians. Barbara, as well as other people, point out that a civil war in the United States is not just going to be one faction against the other. It's really going to be potentially different small sized armed militias. Some people said, like, yeah, something could happen where they start taking over states or they say, we're going to succeed from the United States or whatever. We're not going to see maybe a collective act of violence from one or two factions. It's probably just going to be like escalating random acts of violence or smaller groups of people fighting against a larger group. I was looking at Barbara's research and some of the things that she's written, and she wrote a lot about some of the conditions that could lead to violence and a civil war. And so a lot of the things that are factors, the US already has that, like a declining democracy, political parties that are divided against identity lines, access to weapons, just like unfettered access to weapons, which we absolutely know is the truth. And then, of course, leaders who tolerate and encourage violence. So those are definitely things that we already experience, and those are some of the key tenets of countries that tend to have civil war. Another thing that Barbara points out is how one of the main reasons that lead to civil wars is when a dominant group loses favor with the public. When we think about these groups that are losing favor with the public, let's think about white people. Okay. white people feel like they are the victims. What's happening is that you see what Trump and a lot of his MAGA people are saying is they don't want the white race to cease to exist, and they feel like that's a threat to their survival, which is deepening the racial and religious divides within the country. And also, we have Trump who's perpetuating violence against non-white people. So, what could potentially lead Americans to actually go against the government and fight against the government and take up arms against the government is two different methods or two different paths. The first path is when a loser refuses to accept defeat. So when Trump lost the election, and so he's like, no, I didn't lose. And he told his supporters to fight like hell. And obviously that led to the insurrection on January 6th. And then the second path towards a civil war is when an incumbent manufactures a crisis. So leaders who know that they're going to lose sometimes, use literally like the insurrection where Trump realized that he lost and was like, hey, let's try to, use this violence to say, okay, there's an emergency situation and to consolidate the control. So basically it's kind of like a tyrant just being a tyrant. And Barbara does point out that it's really around elections periods that civil wars tend to erupt. There's definitely several scenarios that Trump could use, and we could potentially see something like this taking place. Like you said, Claire, I don't think that Americans are revolutionaries. I don't think that this is something that's going to happen immediately, but I do think that this is something that's building within our country.
Yeah.
And I do think that people are waking up and realizing that it might get to that point, and they're also determining what the fuck are they going to do about it. Research has shown that the fastest way to radicalize a population is to use brutal force against innocent people. So, like we said before, within this podcast episode, the innocent people in this case are going to be white people, innocent white people. So, when brutal force being used against innocent white people, that's going to be the easiest way to radicalize American people to become revolutionary. With that, I will end with a quote from Frederick Douglass. I have no love for America. As such, I have no patriotism. I desire to see America overthrown as speedily as possible and its constitution shivered in 1,000 fragments. Rather than that, this foul course should continue to remain as now.
Damn. Yeah.
And that's exactly how I fucking feel.
And I'm going to use that from now on. If someone pisses me off, I'm going to call them a foul curse.
You foul curse. You foul curse.
That is everything. Yeah, I hope that America can get its shit together because we need to. Right now. Like yesterday.
Yeah. I mean, look, as somebody who loves political theory,
It's not looking good.
Yeah, I'm not an optimist. Not an optimist. Especially considering the climate.
Girl, yeah.
Like, either way we look, babe, it's over. So listen. Enjoy it while it lasts. Enjoy that material while it lasts, boo-boo. Okay? Enjoy that Gucci Prada.
Yeah.
While you got it.
Gucci Prada.
Okay?
Yeah.